Okay, thank you very much. First of all, who is competing this weekend? Awesome. Who are first-time competitors? Oh, that's even better. Okay, well that kind of tells me what I usually try to do is I start and I go through a little bit just about the NPC, how we judge, because it's amazing, even people that do pro shows sometimes don't know how we judge, how we get to the call outs, how we do the scoring, how we always, the amount of judges, we sometimes have 5 judges at a show, we'll have 11 at some of the bigger shows, 13 at the Olympia. So I kind of talk a little bit about that, and then I talk to some of the athletes that happen to come early, and it seems like everybody wants to know what the judges are looking for. Sometimes myself, I'd like to know that. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, we're a corporation. We have obviously we have a president. Myself as the chairman, a women's chairperson. We have a treasurer, secretary, and attorney. We also have vice presidents. We have 4 of them. They're from different parts of the country. Clark Sanchez is from New Mexico, Steve Weinberger, New York, Peter Potter is from Florida, and Steve O'Brien is from Northern Cal. And then this is what's called the Board of Trustees. Okay, we're kind of like, we look at rules, we look at our changes, we look at the sport, and we kind of decide what we need to look at, what we need to focus on. Our Board of Governors is made up of our district chairman. Most of the time, each state has its own district chairman who runs the state for the NPC, like Jeff is yours in Colorado. We still have a couple of the bigger states, Florida and California. They have more than one district chairman for the state, but basically each of our states has a district chairman. And then we have members at large that make up our Board of Governors. We have athletes rep, Bob is one of them, and then you, the NPC members. Do you see where the foundation is? This is the foundation of the organization. Without this, the rest of this is nothing. And I think sometimes athletes don't realize how much, just how much your input and how much power you have as athletes. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But again, and what we do is we get elected every 4 years. We also have a national meeting. Okay, and we have it at the Nationals in Miami, so it'll be next weekend in Miami. And again, this is what happens though at that, and this is the part that I don't think athletes realize, especially now with social media and with emails. It's a lot easier than it was, 15, 20 years ago. I tell athletes all the time, email the NPC office. If you like something at a show, you didn't like something. You think about something in the sport and you say, you know what, why do you look at this? I think this would make it better. Because all those emails, in all honesty, they all get looked at. And things that are a common thread. That's how Classic Physique came about. The NPC office got multiple emails from athletes, saying about, I'm doing men's physique, but I have great legs, but I don't want to be the size of a bodybuilder. So I'm telling you, all those little things, even little things like, why does the number have to go on the left side? And it was like, I don't know, I think we thought God was going to come down if we didn't put on the left side. Lots of times it's just things that we've been doing for years. And so you get, fresh look from different people, and you go, oh yeah, we could change that. We could make it better. We could make it easier. So again, I always tell athletes, we really do value your opinion, okay? Okay, where to get information, okay? Is the NPC News Online. I'm telling you, everything that you need to know is there, okay? If you go to it, again, you might not be able to see all the way in the back, but there's all these little tabs at the top, okay? There's rules, and I'll go through that later on. There's schedules. There's a schedule, you can see it by the month, by the week, but it will tell you where every show is in the country. Because the more I travel, the more I'm seeing athletes are actually traveling to compete. We have multiple now families, both husbands and wives are competing. We had 4 couples up at the Emerald Cup. They take the kids out of school, they go, they do the historic, they do this from an educational standpoint, and then so they go to different parts of the country. So if you're ever interested in where other shows are promoted, throughout the country, every show for that year is listed on there, okay? Also galleries. That gives you pictures of all the shows that send in their results. It will give you the results from the show and pictures of the athlete. So say you're doing the Rocky Mountain this weekend, but you want to go to the Junior USA. Am I competitive at the Junior USA? Go to the Junior USA from this year. Go to your division, go to your class, pull up that photo of that winner from last year, pull up your photo, put them next to each other. It'll give you an idea of, oh, I need to take my body here, I need to do this, or I can actually beat that guy. So, you know, but again, the galleries give you, again, a wealth of information. They tell you more than anything what the sport is looking for. But there's a search button up here, okay? I'm gonna, in case I forget later on, there is my videos on bikini posing and figure there, but also how many guys do classic physique here? Okay, I am telling you, if you do classic physique, and who does men's physique? Okay, seriously, in that little search button, type in Steve Weinberger's name. He does classic physique, quarter turns, and mandatory poses. It's 2-3 minute video, gives you little nuances on how to turn your elbows, just little things on how to pop your lats better. It is more information than you'll get from anybody else around you, I promise you. Men's physique, the front and back poses with your classic quarter turns are exactly what you want to be doing. Okay, when I said to you about rules, drop down rules, each of our divisions is up there. Not only does it, again, it doesn't give you a like minute detail on what we're looking for and everything, but it gives you a broad, you know, idea of what the judges are looking for. But then it also tells you height classes. If you go to a smaller show and they only have 2 height classes, where it's going to break off. If you go to the bigger shows, we have 8. So it tells you where the height classes are. Like for classic physique, it's going to give you those height and the weights, you know, where your parameters are. But it also tells you what shows qualify you for nationals, what national shows offer you a pro card, and how many pro cards are offered at those different shows, because that seems to be the questions everybody wants to know. So, but again, it gives you all that, and if you're doing like the posing for bodybuilding, classic physique, it tells you the mandatories, it shows you the mandatories. And real quick, before I forget, seriously, if you have a question as I go along, I'd like to make this really informal, so please raise your hand, because if you have a question, I guarantee you somebody else has the same question. Okay, here's what I told you about that events calendar. Again, when you click on those dots, it will open up to the shows that are listed for that week, and most of the time it will also give you you can click on the website then for that promoter. Okay, why be an NPC member? First of all, competitions. Especially if you've been in the sport the last, you know, maybe what, 5-8 years, you've seen our international competitions has blossomed. I mean, it's grown, and it is now going to even get bigger, okay? Between the Olympia qualifying shows, the amateurs overseas, the Arnold's Classics, so there's going to be so many different, and now a lot of promoters overseas are going to be doing, you know, IFBB and NPC shows, so the ability to compete overseas, again, making that trip, you know, doing some sightseeing while you're over there is just gotten a lot bigger. Insurance, this is the part that, you know, when you go and they like, we need to know that you're definitely an NPC member, and we get really picky about it. It's because it's an insurance policy. That's the biggest thing. We know, fortunately, we very seldom have accidents, but every once in a while we've had a fitness competitor that actually broke an ankle. We've had somebody that has sprained a wrist or sprained an ankle. So unless you're an NPC member, the insurance is not going to cover you. So that's why we're such a bug about that. For most of you know, I've been in this sport for over 30 years. I will tell you, I have seen so many athletes become financially successful, and it's not the Mr. or Miss Olympia. Okay? There's nowhere, if you're involved in any aspect in the fitness industry, there's nowhere that you're going to go that you're going to be able to market and network yourself unless you come to one of our shows. Whether it's the Olympia, the Arnold's, the Europas, anywhere. But you are going to meet so many people that have companies that are looking for athletes, you know, to sponsor. Or I've had athletes that have gone out and gotten their own ideas, have started their own companies, and have done very well, you know, financially. And the final is friendships. And I think this is why in the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years now, that the team have grown so much, because they're like support groups. You know, when I first started competing, you were this like lone island, and, you know, getting up at 4 in the morning, you know, so you can get ready and do your training before you get, you know, you get up and get the kids, and, you know, get the kids ready for school and get yourself ready for your job. Now you're part of a team, and you know that Mary Jane over in Virginia is going to be texting you, are you up? Yep, I'm up. Are you doing this? Yep. And I just think that support helps you get by those, those times when otherwise you might just kind of go like, oh, I can't do this, it's too hard. Okay, scoring. This is what happens at every show, doesn't matter where you go. Judges get a strip of paper with your number on it, and then we put a placement on it. There's no names, no where you come from, nothing, okay? Most of the time it's not 1 to 4, it's usually 1 to 40. But that's what it is. Judges, all we do is we place, the athletes according to their athlete number, okay? Now, most of this is done now on computer, but it's still how it's done. We always use an odd number. Sometimes we do 5 judges, but most of the time the average is 7. At our national shows we do 9 or 11, and at the Olympia we use 13. We always knock out 1 high or 1 low and 1 high, okay? Sometimes I'll get athletes that'll say to me, this judge just never likes my physique, or I always have a problem when this judge judges, or somebody knows me because I train in a different gym type thing. Like I said, we always knock out a high and low. One judge is never going to affect your score. And when you go to nationals and the bigger shows, when you have 9 judges or 11 judges, we knock out, we're only ever going to add up 5 scores. So like at the Olympia, we're knocking out 8 scores. We're knocking out 4 highs, 4 lows. At nationals, we're usually doing 3 highs and 3 lows. So one person is never going to affect your score.
Hey, Sandy. I was going to just interject here. That total in Colorado, what we're doing, so you can see your score after a show, is that total is in the results on MuscleQuest.com.
Oh, this is, yeah.
And so if you have a 7, if you're first place.
Like, yeah, 7 to 8.
Yeah, so
you can see how close you were.
Those numbers. You drop the high and low and you add the rest of them together to get your placing. So you can find how you did in the show with the results that we post on Monday or Tuesday.
And then breaking ties. This is another one that everybody always asks me about, okay? We don't rejudge it. The head judge doesn't get to pick. It's called relative placing. It's a mathematical formula. And sometimes if you look when we post the IFBB results, the score sheets actually on the website, there'll be an asterisk at the bottom that says all ties broken by relative placing. And all it is you look at each judge, you forget about the highs and the lows. Judge 1, they thought Smith was better than Jones. It doesn't matter where they place him, that they place this athlete higher than this athlete. And you go down each of the judges. So Judge 2 the same way, like the first athlete better than the second, this same with the third judge. Now the fourth judge liked the second athlete better, so did the 5th judge, the 6th judge up here. So now 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 judges thought this athlete was better, that athlete gets the higher place. We do that in the overalls, we do that in the classes. Okay, so that's why you always have an odd number of judges. So that, there's always, one athlete has to pick up one more judge than the other athlete did. Any questions on that? Okay, judging physiques. Muscularity, obviously, and it's in all our divisions, okay? Every division is muscularity. It's just the variation of how much muscle, okay? Balance and symmetry, balance and shape, that's another thing. It's like whether we're looking at bikini, we're looking at Phil Heath at the Olympia. Okay, we're looking at your whole physique, and it's that balance between your upper and lower, and just that overall all shape and balance. Presentation, this is the part that I think probably over the 30 years that I've seen that has become more important to scoring than a lot of other aspects, because the competition has gotten so incredibly competitive. But I mean, in all the divisions, obviously bikini and physique right now, if anybody goes to Olympia, the top 10 guys in the men's physique, the 10th guy you could have argued for first place, okay? But judges can only judge what you present. And sometimes I think athletes go through so much, so much work to get their, get conditioned enough to get the size, to fill out, to do whatever you need to do. And this takes a back seat sometimes. And I am telling you, it really, really makes a difference, okay? Just a little side note, last year I did I judged the men at the Team Collegiate Masters. We had a group of athletes that came out in the Masters division, the 35, heavier, super heavy, I can't remember. And I called, the top who we thought belonged in the 6, and the one guy was posing horribly, and everybody kept saying, move him out to the end, Sandy, move him out to the end, he looks terrible. And he did, and I kept saying to everybody, but he looks so much better when he just came out by himself and did his routine. He ended up 6 out of that lineup. Turn around, because now you're like an hour and a half later till we got to the 40, and somebody got a hold of him. And he changed his posing, he won that class. And everybody's like, how can you get 6 an hour earlier and first in this class? But if they wouldn't have had the chance, if he wouldn't have had that chance and he wasn't in the 40 class, he would have not got his pro card. And it was all presentation. Judges can only judge. Now, not so much like tomorrow and stuff, because at the regional shows, especially like in your novice classes and your true novice classes, judges are real forgiving. But once you start to go up the ranks and you're in the open classes and you get to the nationals, presentation, because now everybody's going to, most of the competitors in your class are going to have a really good body. So judges are, what we're looking for is we're looking for faults. That's what we're looking for. So you don't want to give us anything that you don't have to. Okay, judging physiques, again, it's that whole package. It's the hair, the makeup, the suit. Pre-judging, this has kind of been switching a little bit. Bob knows this. We always did individual poses first, but the problem is the contests have gotten so big. So from a judging standpoint, for me at least, I always say, like when you come out and I go to nationals and we have 40 girls in a class, or even if we do the Olympia and you have 40 bikini competitors, when that first bikini competitor comes out, is she the worst? Is she the middle? Is she the end? Is she the best? You have no idea. So I like to do a lineup. I like to do the group lineup first. And Jim kind of, we kind of give the districts, leeway. You can do either the individuals and then the group lineups, or you can do it opposite. Okay. When you get to nationals, we do the lineups first, and then we do the individuals. But they're both going to be there, just maybe one before the other. And then we do comparisons. Okay. This is another part that people don't understand, how we do the call-outs. Okay. I will be honest with you. It is not the head judge. Okay. My winner doesn't always win. In fact, lots of times it's a joke lately, because Jim will say to me, so where did your winner finish, Sandy? Because what we do is every judge on that panel passes down who they think belongs in that first group of athletes, okay? And it's a Roman numeral. I can show you on Steve's paper, my paper. In fact, I show it to athletes because not so much at the regional level, but lots of times at the Arnolds and the Olympia, we have a lot of international athletes. And just like Jeff showed you in the scoring, you want to know if you're first and second, that you're only 1 point different. I'll show athletes, because at the women's physique at the Arnolds, we only judge to 10. And everybody else is in this group of, I think there was 40 athletes, so there was 30 athletes that were 16 and under. So a lot of the girls were like, yeah, but was I close to maybe making the top 10, or where do you think, So I can kind of tell by how many judges, thought that you belonged in that first call out. And I can show them, I can say, you had to have at least 5 judges that thought you belonged in that first. You had 4, so yeah, you were right there. You were probably that 15th to the 11th. And that gives them an idea of where they fell in, and then they can, you know what I mean? Because, again, you do a lot of work, and it is disheartening because you don't know whether you made progress or you didn't make progress from your last show. Okay, so anyway, so that's how we do the comparisons. And the head judge's responsibility is to keep the show flowing, and also to make sure that if everybody passes in, I think, oh, you know what? I think these 2 athletes though belong up with this group. And sometimes, again, if the class is really good, you might have 6 or 7 or I shouldn't say 6 or 7. You might have 8 or 9 athletes that all got 3 or 4 judges that that thought they belonged in that first call out. So again, if anybody was at the USA this year, there was one class that I think Steve Weinberger called out 10 guys, because they all were that competitive and they all had the same amount of kind of judges that wanted to see them. So rather than overlook someone, he brought out 10, and then you just kind of weed and kind of go from there. Is there any? Because that's usually the biggest thing that I get on how how did we do the call outs. but it's a majority of the panel. And another thing too, sometimes athletes will say to me, I came out and judges were talking and stuff. I will tell you, we are trying really hard. Our organization is growing tremendously. This next year, we have over 100 IFBB Pro shows that are going to be added to the docket. So there's going to, they all have an amateur portion with them. So we've been doing a lot of seminars lately for the judging, and so we have a lot of newer judges that are coming up to the national level. So we try, because I do panels, I'll explain, I talk about that a little bit later, but we're talking about judging panels. So I'll put like a couple new judges on each of the panels with my more experienced judges, and I alternate them so that, when yous are coming out, if the judge is like, okay, why would you go that way? I'm not. Oh, okay. And so sometimes they'll be explaining like why they would focus, or what they would like about one physique as opposed to another. So sometimes you will see a little bit of talking, but we ban cell phones at the tables. Judges don't take pictures. And sometimes too, athletes will say, like, they weren't, like sometimes I'll be looking down because I'm writing a note or something, because sometimes athletes will say, well, they weren't looking up. But again, you have to remember, you come on and go off sometimes at the national shows very quickly. And a lot of the judges are trying to take notes, and I try not to look down and when I'm writing my notes, but then my problem is that they can't read my notes when I'm talking to you afterwards. So again, but we're really trying to, like I said, to improve the judging, to try to make it a little bit more consistent, get a lot more judges into our national, panels, so that you're being judged by different judges, most of the time. And then when you come back in the evening, we always do the confirmation round. I think athletes forget though that we can actually judge that round. So in that scoring where you saw that was 7 to 8 between first and second, lots of times those are the kind of classes that we'll judge again a second time in the evening. So if you're, as an athlete, you always want to make sure that like the hair, the makeup, and everything's, just like it was when you were competing in the morning, because we did this, and multiple times the scores have changed. That 7 to 8 goes the opposite way at night, and if you have 2 rounds, the night show is your tiebreaker. So if you have one athlete that had a total of 7 in the morning, and another athlete had 8, and in the evening it switches, so they're both gonna have a total of 15. The evening score is what actually breaks your tie. So it can make a difference.